The secret to overcoming the fear of dropping my bike or someone else's bike came down to addressing 3 sources of the fear in the first place. The first one being the fear of damaging it. The cost to replace a broken part, the embarrassment. Putting my bike in the shop out of commission for who knows how long. Replacing a broken lever alone can cost anywhere from $400 to $700. So, to avoid those issues, I protected it. Added drop protection on my Triumph Tiger GT Pro. There's drop protection around the handlebars, protecting the levers. There's drop protection around the engine, just like there is on this Harley. And that alone subsided the fear for me. The second fear is not being able to pick up the bike by myself. In 8 years of riding, across the country and back in remote areas, I've never dropped my bike where there's no one around to help. Every single time, someone has shown up very quickly. Anytime I've been riding around somewhere particularly desolate, I just also make it a point not to stop. I more than likely don't need to. And if I do, to just make sure to be extra careful. That was the case on my cross-country trip before I learned how to pick up my bike. That'll be coming to another point I'll make in a minute. So I also learned how to pick up my bike. Just because you can't pick up your bike the day you get it at the dealership doesn't mean you can pick it up later, potentially even the very next day, after you learn some better techniques. That was the case with this bike. When I first picked it up from Craig in Pennsylvania, the way I was trying to do it, I could not pick it up by myself. It wasn't until I took lock and lean police and civilian training where they showed me all I had to do was put my left hand in a different spot. I was putting my left hand down here and my back was at an angle, and they had me just move my left hand to the seat. And it just came right up. With my bike, I was pretty sure I had proper technique because I learned it from Jocelyn Snow, who has been a professional racer in all different kinds of riding since she was a kid. And you may know her from the BMW International competitions. But all my life, I've just been a weakling. In every group I've been in, I've just like the scrawniest, weakest one. I always wanted to work out, but never really had any motivation to, until I realized it was a struggle to pick up my dream bike. So rather than be a wuss and give up from what you want, I decided I was going to rise to what I want. So I worked out. I started eating enough protein, tracking my macros, doing a weightlifting routine, and now I can pick up my bike pretty easily too. The third fear that I needed to address was the fear of damaging myself. Could I get hurt? The idea of dropping a bike on you sounds pretty freaky. And there was one time, in all my dozens of drops, I've taken a lot of classes and challenged myself on a lot of bikes that were very difficult to ride at first, which meant that I've dropped a lot of bikes. And in many, many drops, only one time did I actually injure myself.
Not a lot of people know this, but your glasses and sunglasses can shatter in an accident. You don't want that near your eye. So make sure you wear some shatterproof glasses, and these ones specifically are very flexible and thin. They fit great in a full face helmet, even if you don't have slits in your eyes. I've got a discount code for you below. It's Doodle10. You can get prescription and sunglasses in all different kinds of styles. Protect your eyes.
Many times if I've fallen on the ground, I had all my gear on, so I was fine. Usually I would just land on my feet, but the one time I didn't land on my feet under this bike, I'll tell you what I did so that you don't make the same mistake. I was practicing a U-turn. It wasn't this bike actually, it was another Harley bagger. I was practicing U-turns, and when it dropped, I fell. My foot got stuck underneath. The momentum of the bike kept pushing the bike forward along with my foot with it. Twisting my ankle, it hurt so bad, I felt like I was gonna throw up. But all that happened was a sprained ankle, and it was a little bit swollen, but I healed up and I was able to keep practicing. So here's what I think went wrong. Whenever you are practicing U-turns or you fall off of a bike with a low seat height, that's when you're more likely to fall closer to the bike. So that's why in Fortnine's video, when he did the motor officer training, he talked about counterweighting and the importance of doing that. And how if you counterweight when you're on the opposite side of the seat, when you fall, you can keep training the rest of the day. For me, what I learned in lock and lean is that police and civilian training actually tells us not to counterweight, at least for me on this bike. They said to lean forward and sit up as high as possible on the seat as you can. They had a competition open to anybody, motor officers, any student past and present or non-students. And I noticed some people had a seat like this and they had it slightly raised. So it's like at an angle, kind of sliding them down forward. So when I did the lock and lean course, I was sitting up really high on the seat, dropped the bike a few times, and every single time landed on my feet. So that's how you can avoid that. Wear your gear, and if you're on a bike with a low seat height, sit high up on it or counterweight. But after training with active duty motor officer, I don't counterweight anymore. And you'll see why and what I do instead in a U-turn video. And this one statement that if you're afraid of dropping your bike, or if you're dropping your bike at all, that you shouldn't be riding, or that bike is too big for you. That is the biggest lie, or maybe not lie, maybe just laziest statement I've ever heard. The best riders at their craft, people who have practiced a lot, have fallen a lot.
So in the process of learning how to manage these larger motorcycles, taller, bigger bikes, heavy bikes, I've dropped them a lot. If you're dropping your bike, you're learning.
Like Jocelyn Snow, one of the best riders I've ever seen. This tiny woman who can ride a huge GS 1250 like no problem. In order to get there, she said she dropped that bike a lot. Motor officers, some of the best riders you'll ever see on slow speeds and on big baggers, they drop the bikes a lot in order to get there. Anytime you're ever doing something difficult or you're ever doing something new to you, yes, you may drop your bike. But it is so rewarding to just keep going past the struggles and become a way better rider than you were before. It's totally worth it. In order for me to be able to do an 18 by 36 foot U-turn, that was very hard. It literally took hundreds of U-turns of me practicing that to get to there. I dropped my bike in order to get it. But now I can do it on the biggest bike I've ever ridden. Once upon a time, I couldn't even take this thing off of a kickstand. Once you've gotten your drop protection so you're not afraid of the cost of hurting your bike, once you've learned how to pick up your bike and practice it so you're confident that you can do it if you're practicing alone in a parking lot or if you're out off-road riding, and as long as you're wearing all your gear and you're trying your best to stay safe, like not sitting low on a seat when practicing slow speed skills, on a bagger especially, and then you've overcome the fear of hurting yourself, that's when you can really see what you're capable of. You can really go on some of the best adventures you may not have gone if you were too scared to do them. Or you can become so much better of a rider than you were before. Anytime something is difficult, it's worth it. It's almost always worth it to just keep trying. Now that you've overcome all your fears of dropping your bike, you can master the U-turn by checking out this video right over here.